So when you think about what's changed over the last year or so since we last talked, there's been a bunch of changes and growth and kind of positive developments with Foundry, and then also there's been absolute chaos in the mining industry in general. Maybe let's start with kind of the market itself and how you evaluate what's transpired over the last 12 months or so, and then how has that allowed you guys to navigate this, and kind of where are you both from a size standpoint, and then also kind of what you are doing from a service standpoint. Where's most of your attention or energy right now?
Yeah, the mining space moves incredibly fast. It's like every 30 days, 60 days, it's changing and it's evolving, and which makes it super exciting. I always say that, about 4 years ago, I pivoted my whole career to go into the mining space. I don't think I could ever go back to the traditional world. It just moves way too slow. So on the mining front, we're fortunate. We bet a little counter-cyclical. So, 18 months ago, we were buying all the equipment we could prior to the halving, and as we went through that process, we launched our equipment financing business to really help support other miners in North America. To be honest with you, what we didn't anticipate was the wafer shortage. So Bitmain and MicroBT, they work with TSMC and Samsung. They're on the latest generation chips. They're competing now with Apple and the best technology to get access. And there just wasn't as many miners available as we thought. So that kind of constrained the market. And then what we also didn't anticipate was just the last 90 days when China shut down mining. They've always threatened to do it. They've always done it in certain pieces, but not like wholeheartedly across the board. And that just sent shockwaves through the industry. And now what we're seeing is there's a surplus of equipment, but there's no place to plug them in. And that's like changing the dynamic of the industry once again. So you got to move fast in this space.
When you think about the China decision, I think everyone agrees they've always threatened it. They've always alluded to it, but this time it was serious. 100% of miners out of China, 80%. How do you evaluate, who's left and who decided to move on? And then also, where are those people going in general? Is it North America, or are they finding a home somewhere else?
Yeah, so the way I think it was a big strategic mistake on China's part, and hopefully someday they're going to regret this. I would say probably 80% of the miners had to shut their operations down. There's still probably 20% in China. We're starting to see some of them turn back on their machines. Hash rate's starting to increase pretty quick. And what the way the Chinese miners describe it now in China is it's kind of like a gray market. So if you're willing to take a little risk, you can still mine, but at any point in time, you could get shut down. Most of the time, they're like paying off the local authorities or something to let them mine. The bigger miners have now they're basically focused on decentralizing their machines around the world, and the Chinese are going pretty much anywhere they can to find space to plug in. And I think what they're finding in North America is the fact that most of the big guys they bought their own equipment, or they've got customers that already bought their equipment. Their build out schedules are booked for literally the next 6 to 9 months. So the Chinese miners are gonna have a hard time plugging their machines in North America to any kind of scale. So they're doing a lot of work in Eastern Europe, Kazakhstan, even into Russia. And really they're going anywhere in the world they can to find cheap power.
When you talk about all those miners looking for power, but they're not really being enough power, is there something that you're kind of pointing your finger to and saying, this is the solution? Is it pursuing, gas flaring? Is it trying to find more renewables or clean energy? Or is it literally just, no, the power producers have to get the lead time in order to get this stuff up, running, and kind of ready for the miners? Like what solves that kind of, if you will, supply demand imbalance?
Time. You can't, it's one of these things where you can't just, we see all these pitch decks, we see all these miners, these announcements, and they're like, hey, we're going to we're going to turn on a 100 megawatt facility. You don't turn on a 100 megawatt facility in a week or a month or 3 months. I mean, that's like a 6 to 9 month journey. And that's if you started 6 months ago, right? So it's hard to get the infrastructure equipment now. There's supply chain delays. It's hard to get plugged into the network, right? Like you just don't walk into some place and say, hey, I want 100 megawatts. They have to do all kinds of grid analysis. There's usually regulatory approvals you have to go through. There's a lot that takes place. So it's going to take time to get this plugged in. What we're seeing is energy companies are now waking up to the fact that this Bitcoin mining is not going away. It's a legitimate industry. And there's this massive base load that's intermittent. And they're starting to think about how do they plug that into their existing infrastructure or their new projects and kind of marry Bitcoin mining together with power production. And I think that's just, for me, that's super fascinating in terms of how that's going to play out over the next 4 or 5 years. So I think it's just going to be bigger and bigger players.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching that clip of the Best Business Show. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you know when we go live every weekday, and then head to SoFi.com/pomp so that you can get an account and we can get after it.